We've got the required letter submission by the Attorney General Merrick Garland to the ranking members of the House and Senate Judiciary Committee, wrapping up the special counsel's work now that Jack Smith has resigned as of the 8th of January, informing the committee members that there was no interference by Merrick Garland as Attorney General in any aspect of the investigation or prosecution, and letting them know what he's doing with Volume 1 about the D.C. election interference case and Volume 2 about Lago. I'm Michael Popok. I got my hot little hands on the letter, and I'm going to tell you what it says and what it means. Where else? Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Take a minute. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. I did some reporting recently on Jack Smith resigning. As part of this special counsel process and as required by law and by department guidelines and precedent, the Attorney General informs the ranking members of the House and the Senate. That would be Grassley, Jordan, Raskin, and Durbin, those four white guys, that the special counsel's work is concluded, and giving them a quick report. And it's almost a transmittal letter about what's going to happen next. Let me read to you from the letter. This is dated the 8th of January, but it's just been made public. In the Senate, of course, it's Chuck Grassley and Dick Durbin. In the House, it's Jim Jordan and Jamie Raskin. And it's addressed to them. It says, pursuant to the statute that about the special counsel, I write to inform you that special counsel John L. Smith, there's his official formal name, we keep referring to him as Jack, but his mother named him John L., has concluded his investigation. In addition to this notification, the special counsel regulations provide that when the Attorney General notifies Congress of the closure of the investigation, that notification is to include a description and an explanation of instances in which the Attorney General concluded that the proposed action by a special counsel was inappropriate or unwarranted under established departmental practices, that it should not be pursued. In other words, did Merrick Garland ever Bigfoot or veto Jack Smith in any aspect of the investigation? And here's what the Merrick Garland had to say about that. There was no such instances during Special Counsel Smith's investigation, in which the Attorney General concluded that the prosecution was off kilter, was inappropriate, or unwarranted. On January 7, 2025, the letter continues consistent with the regulations. Special Counsel Smith submitted a 2-volume final report with appendices. Oh, it's always the appendices all along. It'll be thousands of pages against Donald Trump. He refers to it as the report, but we know it's Volume 1 and Volume 2. He said that Jack Smith also gave him a transmittal letter, a letter from counsel for President Trump. That's the 15-page letter that Todd Blanche prepared after he got an early look, an early preview. And this is the only report that Special Counsel Smith submitted to me. Pursuant to an order issued on January 7th by Aileen Cannon, the Department of Justice is temporarily enjoined from sharing the report. Now, see how he refers to the report as both volumes, as just the capital R report? Hold that in your brain for a minute. I think it matters. And he's been barred or enjoined from sharing the report outside the Department of Justice and may not share information or conclusions in the report. As I've made clear regarding every special counsel who has served since I took office, I'm committed to making as much of the special counsel's report. I'm committed to making as much of the special counsel's report public as possible, consistent with legal requirements and department policy. As stated in the department's filings in the 11th Circuit of Appeals today, when permitted to do so by the court, I intend to provide you and the public Volume 1 of the report. I had a little bit of a debate on Legal AF with my co-founder, Ben Meisalis, about what Merrick Garland was actually providing to Congress at this moment, Volume 1 and or Volume 2. I said it was just Volume 1, and Volume 2 was going to be held back for a bit on Mar-a-Lago. Here's what we have now from directly from the Attorney General. I've determined that releasing those materials, meaning Volume 1 about the D.C. election interference case, at this time is consistent with the law, and that this release is in furtherance of the public interest in informing a co-equal branch, Congress and the public regarding the significant matter. Consistent with, now he's going to turn to Volume 2, Mar-a-Lago. Consistent with local rules and department policy and to avoid any risk of prejudice to defendants Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, whose criminal cases remain pending, at least until Donald Trump pardons them, I have determined at the recommendation of the Special Counsel that Volume 2 should not be made public so long as those defendants' criminal proceedings are ongoing. Therefore, when permitted to do so by the court, not even now, I intend to make available to you, meaning the 4 ranking members of the 2 committees, for an in-camera review. I'll explain that. Volume 2 of the report upon your request and an agreement not to release any information from Volume 2 publicly. I have determined that once those criminal proceedings have concluded, releasing Volume 2 of the report to you and to the public would also be in the public interest. Now, let's talk about that. If they're only giving, Volume 1 is going to come flying out Sunday, Monday. I'll be here on Legal AF to report it to you. Give me a minute to look at thousands of pages about what it says. I'll summarize it for you. I'll tell you its implications, what I think is important to know about it right here on Legal AF. Volume 2 on Mar-a-Lago, I've always said I don't think we're ever going to see. What he's saying here in a nice, polite way is I'm going to give you right now, the ranking members, in-camera review, meaning you can look at it. You can't talk about it. You can't discuss it. You can't leak it. You can't mention it. You'll have to do that agreement with me, or I'm not going to give it to you. If I give it to you in camera, I'm also telling you on my way out, that this is also in the public interest and should see the light of day and see the public. But that's not going to be for him to decide, because the case that would trigger the release to the public would have to conclude. And that's not going to conclude until after he's no longer Attorney General. It's going to be Pam Bondi as Attorney General under Trump, or Trump as the lead prosecutor, as the MAGA likes to call that president. And so it's going to be sitting on her desk. Now, yes, it's in camera with Congress, but there's going to be a fight, because the Attorney General the new Attorney General is going to find that it's not in the public interest. She's going to try to countermand or veto the submission of the in-camera. She's going to try to claw it back and get it back. And then Jamie Raskin and Dick Durbin are going to try to hold on to it. And there's going to be a whole fight about the release of this second Mar-a-Lago based investigation report. Can we try to get it from a FOIA request? A Freedom of Information Act? It's going to be tough. I think this thing gets buried. And if the in-camera review, let me just double check the letter here to make sure we're getting this right here. I want to see how he's referring. How he refers to in-camera is really important. To make it available for you for in-camera review. See, I don't even think it's going to sit with them. I think it's going to be on a server that they're not going to be able to download off of, and they can go look at it just to see what it said, but they're not going to be able to copy it or release. They won't have a physical copy to release. And I think Pam Bondi's going to kill the physical copy and trash it, just like Barr didn't release certain aspects of the Mueller report. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see. I got a friendly bet with Ben Meiselas about it. We'll continue to follow it. But I think it's important that we continue to drill down on this story. We started with it on Legal AF back when, we started 5 years ago. We started with Legal AF covering this 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And I wanted all these procedural elements, I think, are important. It's not just inside baseball. I think it's important to you to understand the mechanics of it. And I wanted to get this letter and the coverage of the letter out to you. So here we are in Legal AF. So I'll continue to follow it. I think Sunday, the next red letter day on the calendar, is going to be the release of Volume 1 about the DC election interference case. I think we're not going to see Mar-a-Lago, if at all, in 2025. I really don't. And then we're going to have to see if somebody like Jamie Raskin has the cojones, the congressional cojones, to leak aspects of it in press conferences. But it won't be the same as you and me getting a hard copy. I just don't think Merrick Garland is giving them a hard copy. I think he's giving them an in-camera version they can go look at online in a locked server, but they're not going to be, now maybe, I'll leave it at that. So there won't be a report for us to see is what I'm trying to say. And then Pam Bondi's going to kill it, burn it, drown it, and do everything else to it that's directed by Donald Trump. Now, if it exists and Donald Trump loses, the Republicans lose 4 years from now, then in the interest, it's like we're still getting, reports and documents about Waco, Texas, and the JFK assassination, and Area 54 or whatever. We're still getting reports from 10, 15, 20 years ago out to the public. We could start seeing stuff like that. My daughter could start seeing it when she's like a freshman in college, but she's 7 months old now. In any event, I'll continue to follow it all here on Legal AF. Help us, help you. Hit the subscribe button, build our audience. The bigger we are, the bigger your voices, or the more your voice is heard. We're completely independent media, completely independent commentary and analysis like no other. And, we don't have outside investors. We're people powered. We're Legal AF and Mighty powered. Really appreciate you all. Till my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.